Happy Wednesday, folks. Great to be back here again. Weather's beautiful and looking forward to spending some time here with you, Carol. How are things going with you this morning?
Things are going well, and I'm thinking about wedding season.
Are you getting married again?
Oh, yes.
Does your husband know?
No, wouldn't it be fun, though? Because, you had your first marriage, and that was very fun. But now my taste is different.
I see.
I'd have different jewelry, different flowers. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
sounds like a perfect
plan.
That's
kind of a pipe dream. But there are a lot of people now who are thinking about the upcoming nuptials for themselves, and they're wondering about marrying their fiancé's credit cards.
That is lovely.
What do you have to say about that, Sarah?
Well, I think the big thing about the first thing with folks looking at getting married is obviously to understand what is going on in their finances as well, because I think that this is going to be the ongoing conversation throughout your life. When you have kids, when you buy your first home, when you're looking at retirement, understand what their choices are in life. Are they a saver, a spender, or somewhere in the middle? Usually they're kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum.
It happens.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, opposites attract. It's that negative, positive reaction there.
And that's fine as long as you understand each other. It's when you stop communicating and you're kind of doing your own thing, and then suddenly,
or hiding something you've done in the past.
Right.
Not that I would do that.
Never.
But it happens to people.
You have that look on your face. I don't even know what to say. But.
See, now that Sarah's actually in the studio with me, folks at home, we have a different whole way of communicating now. But, okay, suppose then, I mean, if I marry somebody who is just, has had trouble paying off debt in the past, does that necessarily mean it's my problem now?
It certainly becomes a part of your scenario of day-to-day living. I wouldn't call it a problem because I think that already starts the relationship in a negative note. I think what needs to happen is to understand each other's sort of ways of spending and lifestyle choices, and then meet in the middle. Yep. For example, someone who's a spender may not be that on the ball about paying the bills. So maybe both of you look at the bills and then you make the payments out there because they're, they need to be out there on time. But also make sure that there's a joint account where you can at least put money towards the household and then have some spending money for each person so they can still at least enjoy their life.
Right.
But you can't be a complete spender. I mean, I've had stories where you have someone who has spent so much that they've jeopardized the stability of their family and their livelihood and their household.
Yeah.
And that needs professional help. I mean, obviously I would go to a pastor or go to the church and I seek help, not just to a therapist right away. Because when you go to your church, at least that is something that you have, that is your belief, that you have some sense of comfort, and there is no judgment. It is not about judgment. It's just finding a solution, and you can love somebody and have things that do occur. Yeah. Life is a bumpy road. We just have to, figure it out the best way possible and still love each other and not be in a constant battle. Fighting.
Well, let's suppose then that you are open with your fiancé about your situation and you are carrying some debt. Mm-hmm. Should you wait to get married until you have that paid off?
I think that what needs to happen is firstly know what kind of debt. And I have to say that need to be aware of why this person has made these choices, because that can go into a larger issue. If there are bankruptcies or IRS liens, I mean, these are major things, and these are decisions that were made based on why and what occurred, and you need to at least get to the bottom of it because you want it to be fixed. Yeah. And do it with love and not with sort of pointing fingers, and get a solution. And I think often enough, the great part of getting married, prior to that, you can go to the church, get the counseling, make sure you each kind of understand and communicate properly and get prepared for this. This is a long-term responsibility. It's not just love and we're going to be in love forever. I mean, it's not about just love. It's about actually going through the good.
You're breaking my heart.
Well, it's true. I mean, everyone gets so excited. They're like the wedding cake, the flowers.
Romantic stuff. That's what we love.
That's fantastic. But we want to understand what has occurred for these things to happen. And
now, what about the marriage of a credit score? So suppose you have a single person that has like a 700 credit score marrying somebody with 300. What do they come out with?
Here's what happens. I mean, then you also have to understand that when it comes to either obligations regarding getting a car or a student loan or a home, you are literally not going to be able to use that other person if their score is at a 300. If it's at a 600, you can help repair it. You know, our company does help with that and build up the score. But the larger problem really is, and it's not a problem, but the larger picture is to figure out how we can not have this reoccur.
Right. How can we avoid going down this path
Again.
Together as opposed to just you
Right,
this time?
right.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because it becomes really often enough a battle with marriages and relationships and friendships and relatives where you're helping someone and you want to help. And I know myself that my tendency is to help, and that can be good and a really bad thing.
Yeah, it can compromise your own situation.
It can, and to save people. You can't save someone. It's a bad habit, and I've had it. So I can tell folks, listen, don't be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
We have all done things and tried to help or save people, and sometimes what's happening is it's just something that we have to fix ourselves for ourselves, not to be trying to save someone that is not willing to be saved. And you can't really save someone. You have to literally give them the tools, and they have to make that decision.
Well, if you do enable somebody that way, I know that's kind of a fun word to throw around, but it does actually mean something. If you allow somebody to continue living that way, it's not going to change. So in order for them to actually come to a new place, new behaviors, they have to fix it themselves, right?
They do. They have to fix it themselves, and the biggest part of it is that if you already know the financial situation, you're entering into marriage, or you're lending money to somebody who's had this behavior, you're literally not helping them.
No.
It's just like someone who is an alcoholic or a drug addict. You're giving them the ability to continue the habit.
Right.
And
rather than nipping it in the bud.
Right. And the same thing applies to when, our company offers the lowest rates in the industry for refinances, purchases, commercial properties, residential properties. But I never want someone to keep coming back to us to help consolidate their debt. I want to be able to find them that one loan that'll get rid of their debt, that they will learn from, and they will be able to not ever come back to us, but refer us to friends and family. Because the idea is to find a solution. The idea is to make sure that you have learned something out of this experience, that you know that you're not going to go right back into debt.
Yeah, and as lovely as it is to think about all the romantic things around weddings, you got to have the conversations, get through those. But as we always recommend, you go to Outback Steakhouse to have this conversation.
I'm telling you.
You can save money on dinner, have a lovely meal, and feel like you're being romantic, but still deal with the brass tacks.
They have great steaks. They do.
So call Sarah if you are thinking about getting married, or if you do have plans to get married and you're talking through the final, all the final details. Call Sarah and run a few things by her, 800-662-9550, and she's happy to give marriage advice.
Anytime. I'm happy for the calls. I love our listeners. They're just amazing.
They are. They're awesome people. What if, all right, so we're following the marriage scenario here. What if we want to have a big wedding? Let's say we want to go down to the Cape, and you know how when you buy flowers for a wedding, they cost 6 times what they cost if you're just buying them for the kitchen or whatever. Is it a good idea to go into debt to get married? What if we're just going to spend this money, we're going to have this one day, and then we'll work to pay it off? Is that a good idea?
I do believe that you should have your dream wedding. However, if it's going to get you into debt, that is just starting your life with a lot of stress. And if you're spending $50,000, which you don't have, and it's going on a credit card, I wouldn't recommend it. I think that if you really want that wedding, then save up for it and put it towards that. I have nothing against people wanting their dream wedding. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I do believe that you need to also understand that the long-term commitment and that kind of money is a huge investment. And certainly if you spent half of it and put the rest towards retirement or savings, would be a better start to your life with someone rather than this huge debt. Because
like down payment on a house.
Exactly. Or even an education. I would say, okay, fine. Look at something that you can actually, and there are memories with a wedding, but you need to make sure you have the funds and not take it out of a credit card.
Yeah. I've told you about the night I got married right after my wedding in the hotel. My husband's on the phone. I'm thinking he's calling for room service or something. He's calling to get an extension on his credit line and the credit card so we can go on our honeymoon tomorrow.
Well, these are things that happen every single day. I mean, what I really want people to understand is that we all go through these great challenges. It's not just something that you're going through right now. Hardships, difficulties, anger, fights with your spouse, your relatives, financial hardship. All of this stuff is happening. It's happening every day, every second. You're not the only one. That's why I tell folks, ask the question and call me. I will hold your information private and confidential, and I would rather you tell a third party and get the facts. It's not going to cost you anything than feel alone. And I hear that all the time. I feel so lonely, or I feel alone. I don't know where to go to. I promise you I'll give you information, and what you do with it is up to you, and it is so much better to talk about it than not.
Yeah.
And be stuck.
It's easy to feel alone, though, too, if you feel like there is something that you have to hide or you're ashamed of and you don't want to bring up to your spouse. That does get lonely, carrying that burden around all the time.
It does, and often enough the same conversation happens where people think that there is no way out, there's no possibility. We have helped folks that may be in a situation where they think that their credit is really poor, but we have to think really long term. We can repair the credit. We can get you in a good place. We have worked with folks who have great credit but just need some help or advice or just a friendly voice to give them some good information. And it's not about how much money you make. It's your personal happiness that counts, and your relationships and your ties with your friends and family. Because at the end of the day, I say, Carol, life is short. Enjoy it and do some good while you're at it. Whether it's, you don't have to give money, you can give your time or volunteer your services. You just need to be happy, because if you're not happy as a person, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Because I have talked to people who are extremely wealthy or who are doing extremely well or have the perfect house, the perfect kids, the perfect car. That is not happiness. It's the inner sense of peace. That's what I say every morning. I'm like, if you have peace, that's all you need.
Well, we're telling our listeners to call Sarah and get some peace of mind about your financial situation. 800-662-9550. And we're going to talk more about it when you come back tomorrow, Sarah.
Stay well, folks.